Hi there, welcome to the last revision session for RAS Business Studies. If this is the first one you've attended, my name's Alan Thomas. I'm the Business Studies teacher at Llanidloes High School. So the plan is today would be to finish off Unit 2, so looking at the third section, Human Resources, and the fourth section, which is Operations and Management. Okay, so if you joined before, you've noticed that we've gone through two other functional areas already. Okay, we've gone through marketing and we've gone through finance for Unit 2. So we're just going to go through those, and hopefully at the end we will possibly have some time to look at some exam papers. Okay, so let's make a bit of a start now anyway. Okay, so like I said, the first thing we're going to look at is Unit 2, Section 3, okay, which is Human Resources, okay, and these are the different subsections. Now, quite a bit of the next two sections have been taken out, so that's quite good, okay. Some of the stuff in the Human Resources unit, even though it's been taken out, I would say it's a relatively good idea to maybe have an awareness of them, okay. So looking at things like training, workforce planning, workforce performance, motivation, management, employer and employee relations. Okay, so the first section is looking at workforce planning. Okay, but we're going to begin with by making sure we know what a human resources department does. Okay, so essentially what a HR department does is highlights of it is always that they hire and fire people, but they also sort out contracts that outline what's expected of the employees. They also sort out training needs. Okay, so they basically anything to do with the performance, making sure that there's enough staff in the right time at the right place. Okay. So change the workforce practices. So that this is the first section. Okay, so it's changed a lot over the last 30 years. Okay, now one of the main reasons is decline in trade union power. Okay, trade unions are a group of people that have are in the same sort of kind of employment, okay, band together, and the feeling is if they're stronger together, then they have more bargaining power against employers. Okay, but trade unions have started to decline quite a bit. Now, there's quite a few reasons for it. Okay, potentially some people say that the decline in trade unions is because they've done such a good job in campaigning for good quality working practices. Okay, some people say that they're starting to rise again and membership is more than ever. Okay, but they're always quite prevalent in kind of more sort of primary and secondary type of industries, which is something that we don't have too much of in the UK. We are more kind of, tertiary sector. So they've never had a particularly strong union presence, okay, whereas manufacturing most definitely had, and famously coal mining did too. Okay, now needs to have, these are some of the flexible working practices that have come in, okay, offering flexible hours. We've definitely seen during COVID there's a lot more home working. You start to see quite a lot more part-time employment and temporary employment, whereas before it used to be very much, you had a job, you had a full-time work, but due to various things, like looking after families and having two parents in work, okay, you start to see the need for flexible work, part-time work. Okay, sometimes you need to fill a gap in maybe some seasonal unemployment or something like that. You need to meet some demands. So you see temporary employment. You see some people doing job sharing. Okay, like kind of that you essentially there's one job but two people work it part-time and there is an overlap halfway through the week. Okay, multi-skilling. Now, trade unions used to sort of block this. That was basically you had one job and that's what you did, okay, and so someone else couldn't do features of your job, okay, whereas that's kind of gone out the window now, and you have to be able to do many facets to your jobs now. Zero contracts. This is in industries where they see up and down demand, where basically they, me as a teacher, I'm contracted for 35, 40 hours a week. I'm not entirely sure what the exact figure is, okay, and that's what I get paid for my employment, okay. But out there are some businesses that offer 0-hour contracts, so basically they don't guarantee any hours for the employees, and that's the kind of again meet things like seasonal demand or just demand in general. You'll definitely see a rise in hot desking that comes along with home working now. I think a lot of businesses are going to realise that they don't need this permanent space and one person working in one desk. Probably only require certain people to come in on certain days to have meetings and meet clients and things like that. But hot desking is basically you're not assigned one desk, okay, and it's for businesses to sort of help save time, space, and so on. Okay, right. So it is flexible working practices are quite good. Okay, because like I've said quite a few times, it helps businesses react to any sort of up and down demand that they might have. Okay. They don't have people on long-term contracts. They have temporary staff. Okay. So they can again react to demand, okay, and essentially you would hope that flexible working practices are going to make businesses more efficient, more competitive, and hopefully more profitable. The drawback of it is the fact that motivation can be quite difficult because they don't really particularly maybe feel that connection to the business. Maybe they don't see like a long-term future within the business. Okay, if you've got a lot of part-time or temporary staff, okay, potentially or people working flexible hours, it's going to be difficult for you to maybe communicate information or implement new ideas. Okay, staff might be a lot more independent from the control of management or leadership or whatever. Okay, workforce planning. A huge role of the human resource department is to make sure that the right people with the right skills are doing the right job at the right time at the right place. Okay, so trying to plan for the future, planning on when there might be an increase in demand or decrease in demand, or there's going to be a change to the employment market, or change to the new products hitting in your market that you're competing with. Okay, and you need to be able to sort of make sure that you're able to meet demands of your customers. Okay, so also by maintaining the quality of the goods or services that you're providing. So you need to make sure that you plan ahead when there's going to be peaks and troughs, whether you need additional training and so on. Okay. So what influences workforce planning? Okay, labour market change, we talked about that. Demographic and social changes. Okay, technological change. Is there going to be new machinery that can maybe make your business less labour intensive? Is the business objectives changing? Okay, is it looking to cut cost? Is it looking to increase sales? Do they need to employ certain people in certain areas, okay, to try and meet those sales targets? Okay, now obviously there's a lot of benefits because, like I said, it keeps quality high and customers happy, and ultimately that's what's going to drive up sales. That's what's going to drive your profits. Okay, and you're also making sure you keep in control of your costs as well. Okay. So it's to help a business decide how many employees they want, okay, anticipate what changes there might be, what training your existing staff are going to need, okay, and hopefully by the fact that they are investing in training and making sure that they have the right staff, you're going to have a more motivated workforce, okay, and that's going to reduce employee turnover, okay. Motivated most motivated staff are going to lead to things like less sick days and things like that. Next section is recruitment. Now, recruitment has been taken out. Okay, what I would say regards to the recruitment process, I think it is a good opportunity to maybe review what the recruitment process is. You probably would have done it at GCSEs, but just have a glance through job analysis, job description, specifications, CVs, interviews. Okay, obviously a question won't come up on it, but I would say if you want to understand human resources, you have to understand how they go about getting people. So I would definitely have a look over those. Okay. Next one is training. Okay, now you would have done a lot of this at GCSE level. Okay, so you're looking at what induction training is, which is this training you have when you first start your job, on-the-job training and off-the-job training, and the difference between those two and the advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so on the job is where you receive employment while the business, you receive training while the business is going and while you're doing the job. Now, the positives of that is you get very specific training. It can be quite cost efficient. However, the drawbacks of it is that maybe you're learning bad habits from existing members of staff, and maybe businesses aren't producing things that are as quickly or as efficient because they're spending their time training their staff while it could be being more productive. Off the job is where you go out of the business and receive some additional training and maybe some qualifications with that. Now, the good things about that is they can come to the business, maybe some brand new ideas. They're getting some real specialist and expert training. The drawback of it is it might not be especially specific for your particular business. Okay. And you know, if your employees are getting qualifications, then they're potentially going to leave for maybe a higher paid job. Okay, so maybe off the job training will lead to higher employee turnover. Okay, apprenticeships, okay, they're becoming more and more popular these days. Okay, where you employ someone who is well, doesn't necessarily have to be younger, but generally what you see is apprenticeships is people between the ages of 16, 18, or sort of 18 to 21, okay, getting workplace experience and getting qualification to say that they are able to do that particular job. So training is real good because it helps make sure the workers are able to perform effectively as possible. They get loads of more knowledge and skills, okay, and they feel like they've got more connection to the business, okay, and because employees feel that the business is trying to invest in them. Okay, so we've talked about the different kinds of trainings you can do on the job and off the job. Make sure you know those and the positives and negatives of it. Okay. Now, one thing that's really important for your employees is retraining. Okay, making sure the training is an ongoing process and something that is done, done constantly. Okay, so it can be things like health and safety requirements, working practices, new ideas, sharing best practice, finding out about new technology, and there might be some schemes to to train your employees outside the business. Okay. Again, apprenticeships, you touched upon that. Okay, so employer and young employee commits to the employer to facilitate training and workplace experience for the employee, and they get recognised qualifications, and they are paid a wage dependent on age, is generally a bit lesser. Okay, so training is real important. Okay, because like I said, it gets them to understand what the business is like. Make sure that the employees are productive and effective, and essentially are able to produce high quality goods or provide a high quality service, happy customers, higher sales, higher profits. Okay, and that's really kind of what it all sort of leads back to. Next aspect is appraisal. Okay, this one is taken out. Okay, I wouldn't worry too much about reviewing what appraisal is. Okay, it's not particularly it's not particularly important for you to make sure that you know what that is compared with recruitment. Workforce performance, how we go about measuring those. Okay, you need to make sure you know what all three of these are: labour productivity, labour turnover, and absenteeism. Okay, so you need to know these formulas. Okay, so the one at the top is the absence rates. Okay, so total number of staff absence days over a year divided by the total number of working days that should have been worked. Okay, if you've seen bad absence, a lot of absences, okay, it can be a trigger that there could be problems in the business, lack of motivation. Okay, and then you've got labour turnover, so number of staff leaving, okay, average number of staff employed. Okay, now there's always two ways to look at labour turnover. Okay, maybe people are leaving the job because they're dissatisfied with the job, dissatisfied with their employers, okay, whatever. But there's also always the argument to be made that maybe the business has invested in you and you are leaving for bigger and better things. Okay. Then the last one is the labour productivity, so total output over a period of time divided by the average number of employees per period of time. Okay, so you want to know how productive your workforce is being, because you want to see how productive they're being, because if they are being unproductive, again, it can maybe tie into maybe a lack of motivation. Not producing as much, but there may be a somewhat more simple reason for it. Maybe they are undertaking some on-the-job training, okay, and they're being less productive. So all these three formulas do is they generate questions for HR department. Why is absence rates up? Why are staff leaving? Why are staff not being productive? What can we do better? Do we need more training? Do we need better qualified employees, or so on? Okay, so it just generates questions, okay, and allows you to sort of try to answer them, to find out, find some solutions to it. Okay, organizational design, again, this has been taken out. Different to appraisals, okay, I would say that organizational design is worth having a look over. Don't spend too long on it, but just make sure you have a good understanding of some of the key phrases in there: delegation, hierarchy, tall and flat structures, okay. I think it gives an understanding of how businesses operate and how they work. I think it gives you an understanding of the fact that there is functional departments, there are leaders and managers within the business. Okay, so I just think it's worth having a look over that. Okay, motivation now. Okay, what you need to know here is making sure you know what the benefits of a motivated workforce are, okay, and what that leads to is, more motivation, more productive, more efficient, higher productivity, potentially higher sales, higher profits, and so on. Okay, less labour turnover, less absentee rate. So motivated workforce creates a lot of positives to the business. Okay, now you need to know some of these motivational theories. Okay, so you've got Taylor's scientific theory. Okay, where a worker who is trained, who is paid by how much they make, is going to be motivated. Okay, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, have a scan through that. Basically, with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you've got all the needs that are in the triangle, and basically, in order to sort of motivate your workforce, you need to be able to offer them something from the tier above. Okay. Hertzberg's two-factor theory. Okay, you need to just make sure that you understand the fact that they have motivating factors and hygiene factors. Now, the hygiene factors alone are not going to motivate your staff. That is what they expect there to be sort of good quality supervision and things like that. Okay, but then the motivational factors is what's actually going to motivate them. Okay. And then you've got Vroom's theory. Okay, so basically Vroom's theory is all about the fact that, your employees need to feel that they're being rewarded, that they're going to get a result, and they are likely to achieve something from doing the work. Okay, and then Porter and Lawler, okay, their theory suggests that essentially that the work needs to be interesting and rewarding, okay, and there's opportunity for maybe some job enlargement. Okay, now you need to have just with that, it's that this is simply just involves sitting down and learning those motivational theories. There's no real quick way of making sure you understand those. Okay, right then, the different kinds of financial methods you can be paid. Okay, piece rate, time rate, okay, commission, which are percentages on your on the sales you make, a bonus if you achieve a certain target. Okay, understand the difference between a salary and a wage, the fact that you can get profit sharing, so you get a percentage of the profits. you get maybe shares offered to you, okay, or maybe you get performance related pay. So like footballers get paid maybe by a goal, clean sheet, assist, anything like that. Then you've got non-financial methods, okay, so be things like that motivate them. So it could be consultation, maybe about the kind of work that you're doing, okay, job rotation, where you get to maybe move around, okay, that you get to work in a team, that you maybe get some delegated responsibility and work from a level higher than you were working, okay, and you need to just look through those financial and non-financial methods and make sure you have an understanding of how they can actually motivate staff as well. Okay, all right. Management and leadership, okay, so just make sure you know what the role of management is, okay, so we're talking about things like planning, organising, controlling, coordinating, leading, okay. You need to have an understanding of the theory X and theory Y, okay, so McGregor's theory X is basically that employees need to be supervised all the time, and employees are inherently lazy and need to be told what to do and need to have guidance. Theory Y ties in a little bit more to sort of a laissez-faire style of leadership, which we'll touch upon in a second. Okay, so that basically you trust your employees, okay, and they are motivated themselves in order to do the work to a high standard. You need to know different kinds of leadership styles. Okay, so autocratic, okay, where you're kind of told what to do. Democratic, where you take other people's opinion on board. Paternalistic, which is kind of similar to democratic, but ultimately the person in charge will take the decision, but they will take on sort of some advice, but they will essentially make decisions about themselves. Bureaucratic, okay, sort of a more sort of very formal type of management. And then you got laissez-faire, which is kind of like leave them alone, is what I mean. What it means in French is that you trust your staff that they're going to be self-motivated, they're going to meet and set targets, they're going to manage their own work and so on. Okay, now what you've got to remember is that these are different management styles that people are going to dip in and out of. Okay, so certain situations need to be autocratic. You need to have an autocratic leader or a democratic leader. Okay, so most good leaders will have all of this in their arsenal, and they dip into it as and when they need it. Okay, employer and employee relationships. Okay, not too long on this one. Okay, so making sure that the employer has all the rights of the employees and the employers in their contract of employment, that they are practicing equal opportunities and following the legalities that have been outlined in the Equality Act of 2010. What trade unions are, what's good and what's bad about them. Okay, how they resolve any disputes. Okay, and the role of ACAS in resolving complaints. Okay, again, the last two sections, okay, with leadership and employee relationships, not too difficult, just sort of needs, again, just going to revise it. I'm rushing over a couple of things just to make sure we do get to the end. The stuff that I feel like kind of doesn't need too much explaining, I do kind of will gloss over a little bit. Okay, so we're now moving on to the final section. Okay, so we should be on time to make sure that we get all the content finished today. Okay, so operations management, again, a lot of stuff has kind of been taken out of this one. Okay, some of it's worth dipping in and making sure that you know, others less so. Okay, so what added value is, production productivity, how to achieve quality, okay, research and development, and economies of scale. Okay, so added value. Now, what added value does, okay, a lot of people confuse added value with profit. Okay, it's not what it is. It's basically the perceived value that you can kind of add on at each section. Okay, so if I go through a couple of examples for you, okay, and explain how added value can be increased, okay, and then we'll go from there. So if we have a look here, all right, so this is producing of a chair. You've got your inputs and your outputs and your process. Okay, so your input is the wood, bracket, screws, paint and varnish, and that's cost £24. Okay, now you've just got those items essentially in the primary sector. Your process is your manufacturing section, where they go about cutting, joining, painting and varnishing it. Okay, now because they are going, essentially what they're saying is in the primary sector, you could purchase all these yourselves. Okay, you could then process it. Okay, add, finish the goods. Okay, but for that convenience of them doing that for you, okay, even though raw materials only cost £24, and there'll be some maybe assigned to some cost assigned to labour. Essentially, when they sell it onto the tertiary sector, they can sell it on for £80, even though the inputs have only been £24 and the processes wouldn't have cost that much. But because of the features they've added to it and the ease and convenience that they have taken for you, okay, they believe that value is worth £80. Okay, now when they actually maybe go and sell this product in the tertiary sector, okay, because they believe that they have provided some ease and convenience for you, so being able to have this table in a shop ready for you to buy, okay, they believe that represents an additional added value of another £24. Okay, the finished product represents this amount of money instead. Okay, so again, it's not to be confused with profit. Okay, it is simply the features that get added at each stage, okay, that represents added value. So how might added value be increased? Okay, you can purchase cheaper raw materials, you can improve the efficiency of the production process, maybe raise the price of the product. Achieving brand status, that's often added value. Okay, so if you can imagine, instead of the table, we've got a t-shirt example. Okay, well, what you might have is a t-shirt being made at the same materials, same process, but at the end of it, instead of a plain t-shirt, they add a Nike tick to it. Well, that brand can add value onto it, okay, and create added value for you as a business. Okay, offering additional services or features to the business, okay, customer access or convenience, which is a sort of a main driver of added value, I think. Okay, for production. Okay, so know the difference between job, batch and flow. Okay, now that would have been touched upon at GCSE level. Okay, so job production is where you produce one unique item of it. Okay, so often people say things like wedding cakes are good examples of job production. Okay, now job production is good because it probably means that you can charge higher for it, because you're going to need high quality skills or some qualifications to do so. Okay, however, the drawbacks of it is for you as the customer, it is probably going to be more expensive. Okay, because of the skills and qualifications needed to do it, and maybe the time and the specialist equipment they're going to do it. And obviously sort of the employer can't really benefit from any economies of scale because they can only really produce one at a time. Batch, okay, where things are produced in, well, batches in groups. Okay, so obviously the most famous example is bread. Okay, you've all probably heard of a batch loaf. You do white loaf, brown loaf, seeded loaf, rye bread, whatever. Okay, but plenty of other things are done like that, like trainers. Okay, they're done, they run a load off in a certain color, and then they'll run another load off in a certain color. So basically, with batch production, what it does is it allows you to sort of have some sort of well, you're able to meet some sort of requirements. Okay, so you're able to sort of change your product slightly. Okay, drawbacks of it, there can be a bit of time setting up machines in order to do it. Okay, and you maybe can't meet the specific needs of customers like you would do in job. Okay, then you've got flow production. Okay, flow production are your kind of your mass produced items. Okay, flow production, yeah, like I said, your mass produced items. So things like, I don't know, toothpaste, shower gel, these are just things that sort of they'll sort of press a machine at the start of the day and they'll run it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, producing sort of the same homogeneous goods. Okay, now they can benefit from economies of scale. Okay, they're able to sort of use machinery to do it, so it's less labor intensive. Okay, but the drawback of it is there's no sort of you can't really meet individual specification with flow production, and it can be expensive because of machinery you needed to buy. Now, what influences what type they measure? Okay, so type of product being produced or the service being provided, how much investment is needed for machinery, okay, the technology available, the skills of the people doing it, how big the market is, and what the customer requirements are. Productivity, okay, how we measure productivity. Okay, so this ties a little bit into the last section of work, human resources. Okay, so we have touched upon a little bit on labour productivity before. Okay, so that's the formula. Okay, but now we're taking into account capital productivity. Okay, which is basically you're looking at your balance sheet. Okay, and you're finding out how much money was invested, and you're dividing that by the output. So you're basically seeing how much how far your money is going on from what you've invested into it. Okay, so how you improve productivity in manufacturing. So maybe you can invest in brand new technology. You can look at lean production methods, which is something that's been taken out. Okay, but basically sort of trying to minimize waste is what lean production is. You can train or retrain your staff. Okay, or maybe you can just reorganize the workplace or reorganize the structure or anything along those lines. Okay, now if your business is productive, okay, you can benefit from it, more economies of scale. You're more competitive. Okay, you can spread fixed costs over higher outputs. You get lower unit costs. Okay, and you as an employee, you might more likely get the performance bonuses. Okay, so what you want to try and get to as a business is produce to the maximum level of output. Okay, and that's what we mean by capacity utilization. Okay, now we also measure that. Okay, we try and figure out its percentage. Okay, so for example, the factory is capable of producing 2,000 car exhausts per day and only producing 1,700. Their spare capacity is 300. This represents a 15% off the maximum capacity. Therefore, it's only operating at 85%. Problem with spare capacity is there's leads to demotivation. Staff get worried that they're not producing as much as they should be producing. Okay, it can lead to increased costs. Okay, because they have to get rid of staff, make them redundant. Okay, you're squeezing your profit margins. Okay, you're not getting as much return on your investment. Okay, so that is an issue. Now, what can you do to resolve this? Okay, you can subcontract production. Okay, so you can subcontract to another business. You can rationalize, help. You can basically make decisions about production, about your business. Okay, that will maximize your productivity or your efficiency. Okay, increasing the use of the assets, be it a human asset, be it a capital asset. Technology. Okay, so you need to have an understanding of computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing, and robotics, and how important they are to businesses. Okay, so this lean production term comes up again. Okay, now that has been taken out, but I would say that's chapter 27. I would say is worth having a look over. Okay. So we've touched upon those: CAD, CAM, robotics. Okay, but also use of software that can maybe model what might happen within your given market. Okay, the IT that's available. Okay, to run predictions, be them through looking at management systems you've got, financial management systems you've got. Now, using technology is basically going to take away a lot of human error. Okay, and that's going to maybe improve the quality. You're going to see faster and more innovation. Okay. You're going to see more effective marketing and sales because you're going to know a little bit more about your customers through the use of IT and analyzing that financial data. Okay, you're less dependent on labor. Okay, you are using a lot more technology. Okay, and you're getting rid of that human error and the other issues that come along with using humans to do your goods or to take decisions. Okay, you're going to see more productivity. You can see reduced waste, and you're going to see improved communication. Okay, so again, lean production comes up. This content has been taken out. Oh, sorry, I should have gone back to the last one. Okay, so potential cost of new technology. Essentially, technology costs a lot to invest in, and there is a human impact upon investing in new technology. People losing work. Okay, the cost of making those redundancies. Okay, but technology is always evolving. So once you've invested in some new machinery, then possibly the next, you're 6 months down the line, you're already going to be behind some of your competitors or so on. Okay, chapter 27, lean production taken out. Okay, but have a look for it. Chapter 28, quality. Okay, so with this one, you need to have an understanding the difference between quality control and quality assurance and total quality management. Okay, so quality control, okay, is basically where you would check at the end of the production process, see if there's any faults or defects. Okay, now that is done to you by management. Okay, but the problem is you are doing it right at the end, and you might not know where this defect is happening. Okay, and you're finding out right at the end when this when there might be an issue. Quality assurance, again, it's done to you by management or supervisors. Okay, you're not really taking control of it. Okay, and it's a more, your supervisors are checking whether there's any issues or problems with quality throughout the production process. Okay, then you've got total quality management. Okay, so it's basically everybody is involved in making sure the business is producing high quality goods. Okay, so they can do things like Kaizen, just-in-time production, having meetings about ways of improving production. Okay, so quite a few key terms to have a look through there. Okay, and if I was going to recommend anything for you to look into, it would be how Toyota go about making sure that they improve quality. They are, they are front runners in sort of producing high quality goods and having quality processes. Okay, so I would have a look. There's some interesting YouTube videos on Toyota, so would be worth having a look. So what is the benefits of producing high quality goods? Okay, better reputation, increased sales, reduced costs, less waste. Okay, happier customers. Okay, right, chapter 29, purchasing. This content has been taken out. Research and development. Okay, now research and development always creates confusion because a lot of people would think that it is market research. Okay, that's not what it is. Okay, it is researching and innovating your existing products. Research and development companies that invest a lot in research and development are a lot more product orientated than market orientated. Okay, I've probably said this before in the video, but on the meetings. But Steve Jobs often said that, how do my customers know what they want if I haven't even told them yet? And Apple is a business that invests heavily in research and development as opposed to maybe more market orientated and market research. Okay, so anyway, moving on. Okay, so there's a lot. Technology is where R&D is spent a lot on, and that is most definitely a dynamic market. Okay, where it's often changing. You have to try and stay in front of your competitors. Okay, and bring new products and ideas to the market. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. Okay. Moving on slightly. So R&D is good, okay, because it helps you keep on top of competition, okay, and helps you attract brand new customers, okay. if you aren't ahead of your competitors in a particularly dynamic market like in technology, then you're going to be left behind. You know, I'm sure your parents can probably tell you that they used to all have Nokia phones, and they all had Nintendo Game Boys. Okay, but those companies didn't really didn't spend enough on research and development, and bought out subpar products compared to Sony, compared to Microsoft, compared to Apple. Okay, and they got left behind. Okay, and are no longer the huge successful companies that they were. Okay, all right, but there is, to a certain extent, if you're able to maybe copycat some of the things that your competitors are doing, okay, as opposed to spending too much on research and development, you can still have a very successful business, as opposed to maybe the people who have done the research and development and kind of first through. Okay. Last aspect that we're going to look at now is economies of scale. So economies of scale is basically the benefit of becoming larger. Okay, and you've got internal and you've got external economies of scale. Okay. So internal economies of scale is basically, it allows you to spread your costs over a larger number of products. Okay, so you get things like purchasing because you get to bulk buy. Okay, you get financial economies of scale where, because you're a larger business, you're able to probably borrow more money because you're able to put down more collateral. You can access better technology, better machinery. Okay, you can spread your marketing and your managerial costs through a higher number of goods. Okay. Now, one thing I do want to touch upon before leaving you is you can have diseconomies of scale, okay, where these are the problems caused when you start to have a large organization. So in my previous job, I worked at a school in Spain, in Madrid, and we went from a very small school, okay, which was on 2 different sites, to a much larger school that was on 5 different sites. Okay, so we had more students, more staff, and the motivation and the connection with the business really dwindled. Okay, and communication was a lot more difficult. Okay, so this probably increased, you know, the average cost, and it was a drawback of becoming larger for sure. Okay, so that is the end of the revision of Unit 1 and Unit 2 for the AS results. Unfortunately, we've run out of time to be able to sort of run through some exam papers, but just remember some of the stuff that I talked about in my first one about looking at making sure that it's very clear what knowledge you're able to display. Okay, so if you're ever doing a long mark question, make sure you start off with some sort of definition explaining what the concept is that you're talking about, be it labor productivity, marketing, whatever. Okay, and then you need to make sure that you have your sort of, if you're long mark questions, your advantages and your disadvantages, your analytical work. Okay, so I always compare it to like a burger whenever I talk to my students about it. So your knowledge, your concept that you explain, that is the base of your bun. Okay, and then sort of the meatiest part, the most writing you're going to do is the burger, is your analytical work, where you're talking about whether you agree or disagree, or whether you've got advantages and disadvantages. Okay, that is what that's what you're doing. That's your meatiest part. That's going to be your longest bits of writing. Okay, and then on the top of your burger, you have got your evaluation. Okay, so your decision that you're making. Okay, now that is fine, but then you need something to sort of grip your burger. Okay, and that's your sesame seasoning. Your sesame seasoning, your justification. Okay, something that you can really get hold of your burger with it. Now you take any of those elements out, you're going to have kind of a weird kind of essay. You take the burger meat out, you've just got a bread bun. You take the base, the knowledge out, you got you know, meat on your fingers or whatever. I know it's a stupid analogy, but if it helps remember it, that's what I always tell my students. Now, the final part of your burger is you're going to put ketchup on. Okay, now your ketchup is your application. Okay, now what I mean by that is your application needs to appear everywhere in your essay. Okay, you need to show it in your knowledge section, your advantages, disadvantages, and in your evaluation, your decision, and your justification. Okay, without that, you're going to restrict yourself to certain marks. Best of luck in the summer. A lot of straightforward concepts in this AS. It just involves you revising and learning as best you can do. Okay, thank you very much.